Namadan Gompoche Tsunjang Peiyang La Cha Tse Lu Gangi Lu Zhi Jib Ni Jin Da Ni Da Ren Nam Da Rab Za Wei Yi Nye Dun Gu Ni Jin Si Ji Ni Ki Tu Kar Lek Bam Zin Gang Da Zi Pe Tsun Zhel Ma Ri Mun Tom Du Nga Yi Si Wei 如足古那普济大贼，阎罗诸诸仰天，诸诸真主牛摩尼龙，雷吉cha诸诸自己，玛利门塞努昂牛古尼涅智者拉吉那。Dune dakchin sachu tarzun yunten luzo jase tuwe ku chuja chudan chuni jenje dalu munze jampe yang la du omara pasana di 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 omara pasana di 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 omara pasana di 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 Umarapatsanadi Zede Jeki Jerab Useki Tabletimu Munbarabsan Kanan Teju Shunlu Tokpai Lodru Popena Watatu So Kangze Taware de Pam Chunse Jiware de Naya 본보 잠연 제니니 객매 빠르양 통화쇼. Okay, welcome to our class. So, uh, in brief, the reason we want to translate the sentences, I just wanted to share a little bit of my own experience. I actually didn't want to be a translator when I was learning Tibetan. I really just wanted to understand my text and talk to the lamas directly, because I realized that translators aren't always trustworthy. They make many, many mistakes. So then I actually refused to translate for some time. I was learning Tibetan, but I thought I'm just going to read and think in Tibetan, think as a Tibetan, conceptualize the prayers in Tibetan itself. I didn't want to translate. But then I realized that my knowledge was very murky. I realized that after translating, when I realized that actually through translation, we really get the meaning, let the meaning come through. So that's of course in the future we can translate if it's needed. I mean, my goal so far, I always change my mind in this regard, but I feel like sometimes I feel like I would like to translate some texts, like select text and really do a really fine job and do my best. But personally, I just wanna still I feel a little bit like I just wanna read my prayers, talk to the lamas, and not have to rely on anyone. So this is the importance of these exercises. They are allowing us to bring the meaning out. For example, there is this text which I recently got my hands on. It's called Dorje Mechar. The May is fire. Charpa. Char is rain. The rain of Dorje fire. It's a text in which Chapter Rinpoche, maybe you guys know there was this um, demon worship cult within the Gelugpas that was spread by Paponga Rinpoche. So actually, the Dalai Lama was also practicing it in his youth because one of his main tutors was a little bit, it seems, pressuring him to do this practice. And it wasn't until Dalai Lama read this text composed by Chadra Rinpoche that he realized that this actually was not a good practice to do. And this text, for some reason, Chadra Rinpoche didn't let people translate it in English. So I recently found the text, so I'm planning to go through it and look through. So this is the kind of cool things that we can read if we know Tibetan. For example, I mean, there's many examples like this. This is just one like cool. If you guys want to know more after the class, we can talk about that a little bit more. Then regarding translation from Tibetan into English, just so you guys know, these languages are almost completely incompatible. Now it might feel that now that we're translating nouns, it may seem that, oh, maybe like it's doable, you know. But as we move on, like you will see that some things are just really difficult, if not impossible, to translate. So this is where the art of translation comes in, you know. We have to think uh, creatively a little bit. So just to keep this in mind, don't feel that because Dang says it means and, it doesn't mean like that's always the case. Or the what that Tibetan book that we're using, mainly using now, what it's doing is really simplifying things out a lot, you know. It's actually a little bit more complicated, but it's a really good foundation to get started. Like, for example, they only given you one translation per word in the vocabularies. So these vocabularies can mean different things in different contexts, actually, but they're making it simple just to get the ball rolling. I just want you guys to keep that in mind. This is a really good foundation to get started, but just know that there's a lot more happening. Uh, I just want you guys to keep that in mind. On that being said, I'm very happy with the progress we're making as a class. I feel like we're understanding everything so far so good. So I'm rejoicing. Okay, that's all. That's the introduction to the class. So now let me find this text. Let's go work a little bit on our text and I'll make some comments. So last class, I just wanted to mention a little bit about Hang, that I think I rushed a little bit through it last class, but basically about list, I guess in general. So an example of these lists, this guy is a little bit too big. I cannot see with a. Okay. So basically, I was talking about list and sok. I think towards the end of the class, how sok means etc. And it can just mean that the composer of the text is assuming that we're very, very well versed in Buddhist philosophy. This is the text generally because in Tibet, lay people didn't really study Buddhism. They either just were farmers and supported the monastery, or some of them became yogis. For example, Milarepa is a good example. I mean, actually we don't need to study so much to develop realization if we have a good guru. So the people who study generally were really learned, so they're basically composing this text, assuming that you have gone through the Shedra and you have memorized all these things. So that's why they put just sok, and they assume that you know that you understand everything of what's going on. Sok or la sokpa is the long term, and sok is the short one. I don't know, where is this sok? Um, I think I cannot find it. Oh, here, sok. So La Sokpa is the full version, but you might also find Sok, and it's the same. It has the same function. It's just one is the abbreviated version.
Chuck,
So
sorry
yeah.
for interrupting you. I was going to ask something that is good to ask at the moment. Like here, song, sock, and sock. There are many nouns or adjectives that could be said without the end marker and with the end marker. And I wonder what the difference is. So you have sock and sock pa.
Yeah. Actually, sok and la sopa usually goes these three together.
Oh, the three together. Okay,
Yeah.
but in certain cases, like virtue, I remember it could be virtue without the and particle, but with the and particle as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Certain nouns cannot be without the and particles, but certain nouns I notice can.
Actually, everything can be with or without.
Oh,
This is
really?
a part
Okay.
of, yeah. Is that's the beauty and the difficulty of Tibetan, that it's very flexible. They can drop it,
Hmm.
especially for poetry. If there's somebody is composing poetry, they can just add, if it's on meter, they can would you
Hmm.
use these to throw in more syllables or just shrink
Hmm.
it if necessary. Yeah. That's
So,
why
so
some
yeah.
go ahead.
So there's a flexibility you are saying.
Yeah, it's extremely flexible. Extremely flexible.
Another question, which is
Huh?
based on this, and I would pose it just because otherwise I will have to remind you of the context once
Yep.
again. Uh, so there are also cases where you have a noun, an ending particle for a noun, then you have an adjective, and again an ending particle for the noun. I don't know, in cases like this, it's an ending particle of the adjective, adjective, how to say it,
Yeah.
or the whole combined thing.
The ending particle usually go be attached to whatever the noun or
Preceding
adjective that
it.
is before. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
However, now this is what we're learning now. It's we're learning in this book they term it nominal groups.
Yes.
And then when there is a nominal group, and then after this we're going to learn about the particles. The particles will apply to the whole nominal group.
Okay, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So
Thank
the
you.
ending particle applies to the end, either noun or adjective only. But once we build this idea of the nominal group, it's like basically we're making a chunk of
Hmm. Hmm.
nouns and adjectives chunk. And then this chunk gets its particle, or it might not. Actually, if there is no particle, it also has a meaning,
Hmm.
but still it gets chunked, and then the verb will come in the end.
Okay, so it will close it off.
Exactly. So our job right now and our main thing we have tried to do with this homework is to see this homework that we have done is just nominal groups. These
Hmm.
whole things are
Hmm.
nominal groups, nominal groups, nominal groups. Is that clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And by the way, the last time you, with this unfortunate homework that I haven't finished yet, you suggested to do the whole thing if you are ambitious, and I attempted to do the whole thing, and I'm glad because you somehow really notice all the structures and they somehow are carved into your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to. And also, even if you cannot do them all, like personally, I think that the material that we learn, I don't expect anyone to learn it, and it also doesn't work for me. I don't expect that whatever I'm introducing now, okay, you got it 100%, then we move on. Actually, for me, it's, even if you want to do 10 of them or whatever, and then we can move on, then you can come back and do another 10, and then send it. That's also fine. And I will, even after the course, I can still correct some work. You can still ask me questions. It's not like I'm going to disappear unless I die or something, of course, which is beyond my control.
Or we can die. I
So,
mean, life is impermanent, as we know.
yeah. So we don't know. I'm talking. That's my intention, but who knows what's going to happen? Or maybe I'll go on retreat. I don't know, who knows? So,
Hey, thank you very much, Konchak. Yeah,
yeah, no
uh,
problem.
we all appreciate it.
So it's yeah, the point that I was trying to make is whatever we're learning, always it was you move as we move forward, always come back and re-review it, because then like something else might click again. Go forward, re-review it. I don't know, the way I learn is you learn one thing, then you move to the next, then you learn one and two again, you go to three, 1, 2, 3, go to 4. I'm always going backwards, and I feel like something it goes into the long-term memory, and it just makes it automatic. We want to have this knowledge to be automatic. Like if we're translating, like in our brain, I want us to have all this ability to go through all the possibilities. For example, now when we learn the particles, and I'm gonna share actually, I've made a couple of lists that are very useful that you can go through all the possibilities and see which one is the one that works best. So that's that. That's la sopa, etc. Sopa or la soc or la sopa. Here are the two ways it can be written. Vocabulary list. Highly recommend memorizing this slowly. Or my only comment here is Lobma, I would say, is disciple more than student. Actually, Lobtuk is student usually. I would keep this one. But these are very useful words. You can just memorize them, but as we read the text, you will start to get it. Also, I thought of this metaphor like doing these exercises and like memorizing this vocabulary. Originally, I was trained as a musician, and when we're playing our instrument, we do a lot of scales and chords separately. I mean, this is a little bit the equivalent is doing this, we're practicing our scales. We're not actually playing music with emotion yet, but when we look at the text, which I recommend you guys are already able to do actually, whatever daily prayers you have, and especially if it's already been translated, look at the text and look at how it's been translated and wonder, or even better, block the translation, read the Tibetan, see how you would translate it or whatever you can do, and then look at the translation and see, oh, like, why did he translate it like this? That would be the equivalent to like going and already playing the music. That's what we want to do ultimately. We don't want to be looking at random combination of words that don't really have any meaning contextually. We want to be able to jump into the text and understand what's happening and get some feeling also. Actually, I have this, for example, Guru Yoga little practice that I read in the mornings, and it's so poetic, it's so beautiful. Just through the Tibetan, I'm starting to get some feeling, and it's so beautiful. The poetry is so beautiful. So getting this feeling is really nice. We have to get to so intimate with the words that the meaning begins to come through. Same like if we would read a beautiful poem in English, right? We don't need to do that because we already know this language, but slowly we can build to that point in Tibetan. Yep, so that was our homework. I'm not really gonna bother doing the translation into Tibetan because I feel like it's for I don't know, I always felt like it's useless because we're never gonna translate anything into Tibetan unless you're a translator and you're translating for your guru for a question of somebody else. I don't know, I just feel like I personally didn't like doing this. I found them useless. So I'm not gonna make you guys do it. If you want to do them, let me know though. I will also correct them. So listen to these particles, but actually there is something else here that is not particles, but I think this should be in the previous chapter, I think. Basically, it's personal pronouns. I guess nouns, these are just nouns. We're looking at the groups, at the nominal groups. So I feel like this should be in the previous chapter. I don't know why they put it here. There is the three persons. Do you guys remember this from your class? The three first, second, and third person, right? I.
It, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember? Keep. For example, what is third person plural?
Third person, it would be like words like they or
Yeah.
they.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is very useful if we're learning languages like Spanish or Nepali or I guess other European languages that have conjugations. In Tibetan, it's also useful, but fortunately, we don't have to worry so much about conjugations in Tibetan. Once we get to verbs, the verb is not really conjugated for the person. There is only conjugation of time. So that's good news. Now, There's different ways to say I in Tibetan. Nga, tak, kowo, nge. There's 4 ways, for example. I mean, these two are most common, nga and dak. Especially in classical, dak is most common, and in colloquial, nga is most common. But sometimes we might see these two also. Che and kie. Usually in colloquial Tibetan, che is not as formal. Kie is more is honorific. Oh, yeah, actually, it's honorific. So these are the two forms of to say you, and then
So I
ko.
just have to so I just have to jump in here. This is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I'm just so captivated by all of this. That
Mm-hmm.
that footnote 19,
Mm-hmm.
where it says that in a philosophical context, those that those characters can refer to self or ego.
Yeah.
I just think that is cool. That is just
Yeah.
totally cool.
Actually, there is so many cool things. For example, the way that I don't know if this is true or not. This is just a parenthesis since Kip mentioned such a cool point. The way that the Tibetans use the verbs, this doesn't really work in English, but in colloquial Tibetan, when you see something, you would conjugate it one way if you're having direct experience of it, and you would conjugate it differently if it's the same situation, but you heard about it from something else. You don't have direct knowledge. I think this is because the Tibetans developed their grammar based on this pramana, this logic. So the two basic ways of knowing something is through direct experience or inference.
Uh-huh.
I think the grammar expresses these philosophical concepts in that way. It's really fascinating actually to, and this is why Tibetan is so cool. Another reason why Tibetan is so cool, you know.
It's interesting. I know a couple of Eastern European languages. One of them is Bulgarian,
Mhm.
in which there's a similar thing.
Mm,
Conjugation of verbs, and it's very difficult for many people. If you see something directly, you say it one way, but if you heard, I mean, somehow the same thing that you
yeah,
you said, whether it's
yeah,
direct experience or indirect experience.
yeah, or inferential, we say, yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Actually, it's deep. This is deep, you know, and this is intranslatable in English. You cannot, you can just translate it one way, and that is lost in translation. There is no way to express it. That, I mean, there is many little points like this. Like, for example, Kip just mentioned this duck. Actually, duck is also like duck me. Me is the negation. So duck me or duck mepa is non-self or selflessness.
Hmm.
So in the Sanskrit term for self is Atman, which sometimes is translated as soul in some old Buddhist texts, especially from the Pali. The English, when they encountered the Pali Buddhism, they translated this as a soul. Uh, so Dagmepa is selflessness.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting.
Dagme, and the pa makes it into a noun, so selflessness. Yeah, so there's no self, but you can also say that with I. Like it also works as I. So basically,
Uh-huh.
literally, you're saying I, or like in the prayer, like Dagi Tututum. I self
Okay.
does this.
So then the Atman with the noun ending would be something like I-ness.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. You turn it into a noun, yeah. Selflessness. I don't know about the Sanskrit. I don't know Sanskrit so well, but Dagmepa, that's what that pa is doing in
Mhm,
this case.
mhm.
It's turning it into a noun. That's the, and also sometimes that, for example, if you say this, there's two reflexive pronouns which actually are down here, rang and ni. They're like also are reflexive things. So for example, dang ni, I used to think that this dang ni also referred to myself, like it says here, but actually, for example, in this Guru Yoga prayer again that I do, dang ni is referring to the Guru himself.
Ah,
So it doesn't always, Dagni doesn't always refer to oneself. It can also mean to something itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, this is why actually this book is really, really good to start with because it makes it very simple, but it's like a training wheel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, it's better to go and jump on the other ones that I gave to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, so I know I'm
Oh,
jumping ahead, but again, this is just so fascinating. So I am now
good.
actually skimming ahead in that Rockwell book, and
Mm-hmm.
Rockwell describes it this way. He says that it's not just studying foreign language, it's also learning a very different philosophical, psychological, and cultural viewpoint. It's
Yeah.
not just a matter of learning different words of the same description of reality, but of learning a different way of thinking about reality
Mm-hmm.
altogether. And then this is it says this might be a little like trying to learn German by reading a work by Schrodinger or uh, Einstein or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just cool. I just
I,
love it.
I had the same
Um,
feeling with Sanskrit after a certain point when you. It's not that I'm able to think, I'm not fluent, far from it, but
mm-hmm.
whenever I try to immerse myself in the text that I'm reading fully, somehow thinking through its language, it's a different way of looking at the world. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
when you translate it in English, formally speaking, is the same information, but it's another different prism of looking to the same thing.
Yeah. Actually, the language that we use to think, if we're thinking verbally, is actually the way the language through which we're conceptualizing the world.
Ah,
It's
interesting.
the language, yeah, the language that we're using to think. Actually, when I really went like hard to try to learn Tibetan, I forced myself to start thinking in Tibetan. That's when I actually started to make progress. Rather than thinking in English, everything I did, I saw in Tibetan for a few months, you know. That helped actually. I recommend it.
Cool.
Uh, so yeah, the language that we use conceptualizes another cool example of how this is kind of amazing. For example, in Tibetan, if you say like a cup, you know, or like you can say porba in Tibetan, like I have a cup. In English, you say I have a cup.
Uh-huh.
Have means like you possess it, right?
Yeah.
But in Tibetan, you say ngala ngala ye ngala the cup ngala cup ye. Ngala is to me, cup exists. Ye is exists.
Oh, it's the same in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is
Oh yeah.
almost entirely based on passive. So
Mm,
very rarely it's I do, someone does, but something was done by me. You would typically
yeah,
see in Sanskrit.
yeah.
This was done by me.
It's very similar actually also, which
Cool.
is cool. It's cool because we don't possess this cup, you know. We don't possess anything. It's just there for
Yeah.
you now, and then everything will be left behind anyhow. So it's a really cool way of thinking this way, you know. There is something about the language that also, of course, if we're using it all the time, we don't really appreciate it, but it's there, you know. Yeah, it's cool.
Profound.
It's very cool.
So,
But
sorry, last thing. Sorry
uh-huh.
for the long
No, no, it's
somehow,
cool.
but
It's cool. It's
you
cool.
inspired me to try doing the same, even at this early stage, like even with the minimal sentences, to internalize them to the extent that they feel like not an external entity, almost an internalized verbal
Yeah,
thing, almost like you think in this way. I mean, to
yeah,
start to internalize at this very early stage, that this shift that you were talking about.
yeah, for sure. Actually, when I first came to Nepal, I went on a retreat for 5 months, and I was in a monastery where we weren't allowed to speak English. We had to only speak Tibetan, and everything was in Tibetan. And it was really difficult because I had no foundation. Like I could read, but that's all. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any of you guys are more advanced than I am already compared to when I went to that monastery. And it was really, really difficult, of course, because I'm just listening this language. So I made the resolution that I would every word I see, I would memorize it. so deeply that I would never have to look at it again in the dictionary. Like I really like grab that word and like I memorized the hell out of this word, you know. So then actually that worked because then I was doing very few words, just like one, two, three per day. But those words were like solid, you know.
Yeah.
I feel
This is
like
what I will try to do exactly
yeah,
as you describe. This is how I imagined it working.
yeah. It's
Cool.
better to do that than to memorize because actually, for example, that in ROII, what we would do is they would have us memorize all these vocabulary words, whatever they are. This is like, okay, you memorize that in 1 week, then you memorize, or in colloquial, I think we memorize like 40 words per week. Then like, okay, you can memorize them, but then the next week you memorize more, and then the next week you memorize more, but it's like blurry, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have all those. Sometimes I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I memorized those words. I look at my exam and I was like, oh, I got an A, but I don't remember half of these words.
Yeah. They are not alive.
Yeah, exactly. Although it helps also, I cannot say it's not good because there's something there. Oh, I seen this word somewhere, you know? Then I have to go back. But it's much powerful, I feel like, to do few words, but have them solid. Yeah, that's my experience. But of course, we all have each have our own experiences, so we have to figure it out, see how it works for ourselves. But it's good we talk about this, even if it's taking some class time, because we need to feel like the value of what we're learning, and it's fun, you know. If we enjoy it, that's how we make progress. If we don't enjoy it, yeah, maybe that's why half the people are really drop the class. So, anyways, so personal pronouns. By the way, if there's any questions, you can interrupt me. I think it's nice to talk about this. This is very important. Personal pronouns are these here, one, second, and third person. And to make them plural, you just add one of these three things at the end. And they're flexible. You can add this one, that one, or the other one. Is no. Again, another example of the flexibility of Tibetan. So I can say nga, nam, nga, chak, nga, so, dag, etc. Everything can go with anything. Dakchak. Dakchak is very popular, by the way. Nganso is also very popular combination. I mean, these are the main ones, actually, to be honest. Technically, you could do them, but you will see mostly these ones. Chunam, Chenam, for second person. I mean, just straightforward, just pronouns, personal pronouns. Then the reflexive pronouns are basically rang and ni. Rang, so kirang. I can say ngarang, I myself, or yeah, like here. This is very, very common. Ngarang, tangi, kirang. This is also very much used in colloquial too. Like, oh, chirang gare chiriye. Like, what are you doing? Yep. So this finishes as far as I can think of the section on nouns and nominal groups. So to reiterate just shortly, the nominal groups were basically when we look at the text, at first I recommend doing it with a pen. So you can take your pen and write on your text, and like I still do it actually if I'm translating because it really helps to mark the nominal groups. But eventually we can probably just do it with our minds. Just mark in your brain, you mark this is the chunk that I might need to subdivide. So those are nominal groups. And now we are going to start with the introduction to the particles. So particles are these things that don't have any meaning on their own, but they tell you about the relationship between the nominal groups and the variables. That's basically their function. They tell you what's happening. Like what the relationship. I think relationship is the key word here. They tell you the relationship between the parts of the grammatical structure of what's happening on the text. So they always go after the words they modify, or the noun or the nominal group they modify. So they're post positions. Unlike English, like they do the example to the guru, in Tibetan you would say the guru to, you know. You would say lama la, for example, towards the lama. So they will modify after what comes after. The particle will come after. That's basically what's saying here. They mark the entire nominal group or list. So this is what we learned, how to make make it into a group, and those groups stay together. So the particle will modify the whole thing, or maybe it's just one word, perhaps, depending on the text. And then this is what's really a headache, I guess, that sometimes the particles are omitted. So again, the flexibility of Tibetan, sometimes not only are can you drop half of the words here and there, but you can also even drop the particles. So just so you know, this can also happen. Then, oh yeah, this is also an important point. So there's these two kinds of the particle will function differently, whether it's acting upon a nominal group or a noun, and whether it's acting upon a verb, it'll have a different function. That means that if the particle comes right after a noun or nominal group, it will do one thing. If that very same particle comes after a verb, it will have a different function. So the first part, just so you guys know, we're first going to learn nominal function, how it functions on verbs. Actually, it's easier. I'm sorry, did I say verbs? I meant nouns. First, we will learn how they function on the nouns. The function they have on the verbs is actually easier. It's not as complex. The nominal function is a little bit more complex, so we'll focus on that. So just so you know, just because you see a particle, it don't think automatically what you learn. First look, is it going against, is it next to a noun or a verb? That's also something very important to consider. Okay, you can take a little read of this later, but basically that's what I said, is more or less what it says there. Then there is these are again the 8 grammar cases, which I recommend reading thoroughly in the Hackett book. Maybe not. Actually, now is a good time to read it, I think. Just don't go too deep into them, but just know that these 8 exist. These are the 8 cases. And so the first nominative is that what we've been working on so far, which is basically just the nouns. Then the thing is that there's the second case, the fourth case, and the seventh case. They all use the same particle. So when you see this, particle, you kind of have to feel or figure out which one of these function it is having, because it is the same particle. And then these 3 have each their own particle. And then the vocative cases doesn't have any particle, but this one is obvious also. So the first particle we're going to cover now is the connective particle. So just know, keep this in mind when we do the ladud particle. Just keep in mind that that's why it helps to understand basically what the cases are. Any questions so far? Is that clear? If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. So yeah, basically this is saying what I just said. You guys can read slowly. Yeah, so again, it's the nominal use and the verbal use of the particle. Another thing to keep in mind. We already did the personal pronouns. We did the reflexive pronouns. You just reflect back. Ni, ni and ram. And finally, we reach our connective particle section. Basically, what is happening here is this spelling, there's 5 ways to spell the connective particle. And this spelling will depend on the suffix of the previous word. So if it ends with this suffix, it gets a key. If it ends this suffix, if it gets this suffix, it ends with this, and etc. You can see the list here. I think this is not so important for us to know, to focus, to memorize yet. Maybe later, but this is more if we're writing Tibetan, because the function, you just have to recognize these shapes, just memorize that these are the particles, and just know that this will have a specific function. And the spelling, the reason there is sometimes this one or this one or this one is because of the spelling of the previous word. That's all. Don't worry about so much. I think more important now to focus on the function. That's the key here to get the meaning. So nominal groups, we're gonna do the nominal groups. Pronouns actually also have like I said, if there's another function, but these are obvious also. It's basically like my, your. We want to cover these two. Okay. So the first group, this book divides the nominal function of the connective particles as basically off. That's it. That is easy, I guess. Off. So basically, this is the formula. These boxes give you the formula. So each, there's always a formula that is a little bit flexible, but it helps to think in terms of this. So A plus connective particle plus B. In English, you would translate B of A. So whatever is said here, plus key, and then B. When you translate, you would say this of this in English. Translate from right to left. That's it. Here's the examples. Sanje ki tenpa. So A, ki, B. A of B. A, ki, B. You will say B of A in English. So tenpa is teachings. Ki is of. Sanje is Buddha. And then we add these particles because it makes it, we cannot say teaching of Buddha, right? It doesn't sound good in English. The teachings of the Buddha.
So
That would be the translation.
essentially, the reading of the words in English would be from right to left.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time, yeah, most of the time it works. Even if there's many elements, sometimes it works even to just go like that, flip the whole thing. It's a good rule of thumb to go by. Sorry guys, I got a little bit sick in that bus. 13 hours with strangers coughing
Can
on
you hear
me.
me?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, after I realized this, I would always read in terms like Buddha's teaching apostrophe S. It
Yeah,
shortcuts my thinking in Tibetan.
Yeah, actually that's correct. That's actually even easier. Actually, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, because of I can take away the so many the everywhere, and then it clocks or it like extra words. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Actually, that's another. This works. This one works often also. Actually, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't
So
work,
it
but
helps
yeah.
so much better. Yeah, for
Yeah,
me.
that's a no. Thank you for saying that. Actually, I should have also mentioned this one. So basically, it's an apostrophe S. Like you can say
Possessive.
Buddha's teaching. Teaching of the Buddha is the same meaning, right, in English. So yeah, what Zan said is 100% correct. You can also think of it as an apostrophe S. I think thinking of it in terms of sometimes if it's too long, you have to take it down to off. because if there's too many elements, I guess you can also say it in English. It's not incorrect, right? You can say my mother's, cousins, sisters, books, letters, right? It's not incorrect to say that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you can also do it, I guess. I guess that you just want to find a way to express it, that because if you say that also, it's like in Tibetan this happens, like there's these like really long relationships of things, and just so you know, of course we're gonna do the easy ones first. But yeah, either off or apostrophe s. If you do off, you have to flip it. If you do apostrophe s, don't need to do anything in there. Yeah, it's already there. Buddha's teaching, or the teachings of the Buddha. Can you read this, Federico?
Oh, I'm right now in a very bad shape, but let me
Yeah.
try. The first would be John, Jen,
Jang,
Jan.
Jang.
Oh, there's no modifications here. Okay,
Yeah,
Jan,
Jang, Jang.
Jan, Chap.
Chup,
Oh, Chu.
chup.
And
Yeah.
you do not pronounce the last one.
Yeah, you
Okay.
Jang, chup,
Chup.
chup. Yeah, Jang,
Jan,
chup.
Chup. Sam.
Sem.
Oh, this is a strange guy here.
Can you
But-
identify the root letter here?
Yeah, but the other one also has a subscript, so it's
Yeah, it has the vowel marker. So there is
Yeah.
this exception in the rule.
Okay.
By the way, you guys should go through the first book we used, just to don't forget the pronunciation. It's also good to know. But basically, this is one of the exceptions.
Okay, so it would be something like simply boo.
No, this is actually pa,
Oh,
and
oh,
this is an agikui. Actually, this word,
pau, or how would you pronounce
no,
it?
this is e actually, agikui.
Oh, yeah, e.
Yeah, I mean the proper way to pronounce it would be pai,
Pai.
but
I see.
when the Tibetans pronounce it, they will say pe.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
is collapsing to
Yeah.
a.
Exactly, e. So they will say
Okay.
pe.
And then here, for some reason, I'm very tired and my brain works very slowly today. Tech.
Yeah.
Pa.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So Changchup is body actually. Body. Sempa is sattva. And Tekpa is yana. Actually, this means bodhisattva yana. But in Sanskrit, but we're working on this is a function of this particle, right? This is the particle we're working with. So
Oh, it would be off. I see.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see the translation. That's right.
yeah,
Uh,
the vehicle of
yeah.
the bodhisattva, or the bodhisattva's vehicle also would be correct. Either one.
Just a question on this strange guy, the fourth one, which now I understand should be pronounced something like pay. Right?
This one, right?
Is it pay?
Yeah.
So without the marker,
Which is right here actually.
oh, okay.
This is
Without the
the
marker, it would be pronounced pa or
exactly.
something.
Yeah, just pa.
Okay, okay, I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just pa.
So actually, I have a
Simple.
question on these examples too. So it seems as though some of these particles, they sometimes appear as a separate syllable. Other
Yes,
times they appear to be appended within at the end of
Yeah,
an
yeah, this is exactly what I was confused here.
yes,
That's
yes,
right.
yes. Very, very
So I
good.
mean on this second example, the vehicle of the Bodhisattva, that connective particle is not sitting alone as
Separate.
a syllable.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So this
So that's
confused me.
really, I mean,
Exactly.
so yeah, I mean, so how would, is it just obvious from experience that you would look at that syllable and say, oh, well, that's a connective particle, or would you have to go through a process of elimination that syllable doesn't mean something else?
I would
No,
make a wild guess that it happens only if the word ends in the given. I think it's just a mere luck that this ends in a, and then you have you can make it u on top of it, and that's
yeah,
why it's
E,
happening.
E.
E.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
giku.
Gigo. So
Ah,
yeah, in this is a kind of an exception, sort of. Because this happens to be that word, if the word, this is a rule actually. If the word ends with this long I'm sorry, not the word. If the suffix is this one, you are allowed to do this, to put the connected particle there. You just turn that connected particle because it's almost like you have already something there, so you can just
Mhm.
hook it and transform it into the connected particle. But it depends on the spelling. Again, these are the rules here.
Mhm.
When there is no suffix letter or the suffix letter is a, these are
Okay,
the connected
so,
particle you would use.
okay,
Yeah,
so it's a rule. Okay, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
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 so long. I remember I after reading so long. Once every time I see this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters, I will just put it as apostrophe S.
yeah,
That's my shortcut.
yeah, yeah. That's actually a good trick. That works.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it will be really very difficult to every time must remember the suffix and this and that. So every time I see these 4 letters, I will just put
yeah,
apostrophe S and easy for my connection, and
yeah.
it's so much faster
Yeah, these
rather
five.
than
Yeah,
turn around this of this.
yeah. But this works. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but I think it will work maybe like 80 or something, 85 maybe. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a good trick for sure. But I would also, it might not always work, just so you know. Sometimes it might need it doesn't always work as an apostrophe S, but it works
Okay.
most of the time. So yeah.
But when it doesn't make sense, that means it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You can do, that's actually a good way to, yeah, to get the ball rolling. I have to say, yeah, it's a good one.
And those two possibilities at the end of the last rule are simply alternatives. You can do either of the two, or in certain cases you need to do the first, in certain cases the second.
In this case, is if you want to just have one syllable. If you want to add an extra syllable, you would add the E. Again,
But
it's like just to make it flexible. If you want more syllables in
okay,
your verse, or if you want to make it
okay,
smaller,
okay. But both
yeah,
are legitimate.
both are good. Yeah, both are good. So, yeah, the spelling is here. I didn't go over it because I thought this box. Generally, when there is a box in this text, this box is something to keep handy. So this is the magic box for this part. It tells you how spelling works. Yeah, so that's yeah, that was the second example. So Zen, can you read this one for us?
Jamu Shera.
Yeah, good. Jalmo is queen. Sherab is wisdom, or sometimes people like to translate this as intelligence too. But wisdom is also okay, I guess. So with
Also,
the
another thing that I remember is that whenever I see a R key go E, right, the sound will change to E sound. Now
yeah,
this is a combination of O and E. So
exactly, very good. Muy, because it's like you're saying O E, right? But they kind of get fused, so it's muy. Gal muy, shut up.
Sorry, it will result in you're saying we?
The sound,
no,
Yeah, the
we,
sound.
like it's like O, this is an O and this is an E, right?
Yes.
So you kind of, it's a deep tone. So you kind of go, muy, muy,
Okay.
we,
Okay.
we,
muy.
Okay.
we doesn't have the O sound.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
It just the combination of the two.
yeah,
Okay.
they kind of like fuse a little bit when you pronounce
Mhm.
muy. Gal muy, shut up.
Mhm.
With the queen's wisdom or the queen's intelligence or the wisdom of the queen, as it's translated here. Okay, now we give it to Kip, this one.
So that would be, so that's a, that's Bode, um, Bode, Bode Kya Mi.
So for this one, this would be both, but the rule, don't forget this rule that the da as a suffix changes the o into an
Oh,
ö.
okay.
So this is b.
Uh,
P is Tibet. P.
Mhm.
This is ki,
Ki,
p ki mi.
Is it he like K-I in the sounding or K-Y-I?
Yeah, it's like a ki, KYI kind of
Okay.
ki.
Mhm.
Yeah. P ki mi, the people of Tibet.
Mhm.
So we're unfortunately out of time. So just review what we did so far. Think about this. These particles are all over the place in our text. They're omnipresent. I would recommend, now that we have a new element into our recipe, go through your text and just try to find them, play with it, get intimate, get some intimacy with these connected particles. Okay. If there's any questions, you guys can stay and ask, or you can email me or WhatsApp group or anything. And good job. Thank you for still being here.
thank you for
Never,
everything.
never
Oh,
give
Yeah.
up. Never give up. Okay.
Thank you, Konchak, for making it enjoyable.
Yeah, of
absolutely.
course.
Okay.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
I enjoy it too, so of course. So yeah, that's it. We'll do our dedication and then I'll stop the recording now.
Thank you.